Hi folks! So I had a request to do a video recently about mold toxicity. So thank you for the question, and I'm going to give my perspective on it. As with most things, I try to take a more nuanced and balanced perspective. I know that there are practitioners out there whose entire career is based on mold toxicity and addressing mold toxicity and that being like the root of most chronic illness I don't think they're necessarily wrong. I think mold toxicity can be a huge factor in chronic illness, and avoiding mold exposure is probably a good idea most of the time. um, but I like to take this perspective that human beings are truly very, very resilient creatures. And there is a normal amount of mold and fungus that humans have always been exposed to, just in our natural environments, right? Like, there's probably always been, mold in places we've lived, in food we've consumed, and there are certainly cases in which we can look at historical records and see where maybe that actually did cause some kind of issue in a community, right? I mean, there's interesting hypotheses about you know uh, moldy grains, at different points of history that may have, triggered different, mass illnesses and things like that. So I'm not trying to make light of the issue, but I do think that if we have a healthy immune system and open detox channels and a really good nutrient status and a very calm nervous system, there is actually a very normal amount of mold that we could get exposed to, especially on a seasonal basis, and it not be a problem for our health at all. It's really more about your immune system's capacity. And this is true for everything, right? Like, there are people who get exposed to heavy metals, and a different person will get exposed to the same heavy metals, and they will get sick from it, and the other person will not, right? Now, that doesn't mean that I think you should expose yourself to heavy metals, right? You should probably avoid them, just like I think you should probably avoid mold as much as you can. But if we are very healthy, it really shouldn't be a problem most of the time. Um, I mean, I appreciate spreading awareness about the issue because I do think it is a missing piece for some people, but I also really don't like the fear mongering, right? For example, I saw recently on Instagram Dave Asprey, who built his entire coffee brand around the fear of mold toxicity. He made a post about oh, are you peeing right after you go after you drink coffee? That means there's mold in the coffee and you're getting mold toxic from it. And I just thought it was really interesting because when I read that, it just struck me well, if you are peeing because, right after you drink something that maybe had a little mold in it, that's a good thing. Like, that means your detoxification system is working. You were exposed to something, your body's getting rid of it. No problem, right? So I just think we need to be careful about this really overreactive fear mongering perspective, because also reactivity in the nervous system is part of what makes people react to things. Right? If you are already just keyed up and afraid and feel like the world is always out to get you, your brain is going to find something that is the source of the perceived attack, right? Even if in another situation, if you were feeling calm, you wouldn't react to molding your environment. If your brain is stressed out and thinking there's a threat nearby, it's going to try to validate itself and find a threat nearby, right? And then it's going to react to something like mold, which may have actually been innocuous, right? If you were in a calmer state of mind. So we do have to be really careful about these things. We do have to be really careful about this is this big terrifying thing that everyone should be freaked out about and tearing their life apart, to avoid. And I just don't think that's necessary. Again, if your immune system is strong, you should be able to, in moderate doses, especially seasonally, be exposed to a little bit of mold, and your healthy microbiome will help your immune cells like identify and attack any mold that has gotten into your body. Your lymphatic system will be very fluid and flowing and pull all those, collect all those mold toxins out of your system and take it through to your detoxification system, and you'll eliminate it, right, through your waste products. And so no harm, like you may be exposed to mold here and there all the time and never even know, because your immune system and your detoxification systems are just taking care of it, for you. And so that's really what we need to focus on, right? Instead of like being hyper fixated on the concept of mold, we need to just work on rebuilding your immune system and calming your nervous system and making sure you're doing regular detoxification practices, castor oil packs and saunas and Epsom salt baths. Like this is all, we just all need to be doing the things that are going to be supporting these systems so that we don't have to be so afraid of things. We can trust our body. Like, yeah, our bodies have been exposed to all sorts of toxic things, for millennia, in moderation. As long as we're keeping and maintaining good health, it should not be an issue, right? Now, that being said, I will say that if someone is acutely in a situation of nutrient depletion and, poor immune system health and really dysregulated nervous system health, right? I mean, that's the situation a lot of us have found ourselves in, whether we want it to be true or not. It's just the reality. Sometimes it is helpful to get out of a moldy situation because it's just another stressor on top of everything else going on with your body, right? And it can certainly be a missing piece for some people, people who are trying to do all the things and not getting better, and then they realize their house is full of mold, right? And their immune system has just been too weak and their nervous system has just been too reactive, and it's been an obstacle to their healing. So, by all means, if you are in a moldy environment and you're struggling with your health, get out. There's no harm in that. If you're able to move or go stay in another place for a while, I'm all for that. I think that would only benefit you. If you are stuck in a moldy environment and you can't get out, making sure you have air filters, like you're airing the place out as much as you can, that you are, spraying any moldy spots you see with like tea tree oil and oregano oil and these natural antifungals, that's a good idea. Right? And then as you get healthier, you won't have to worry about these things so much, right? You'll be able to have, minimal to moderate exposures to these things, and you can trust your body to take care of it. Now, I actually have a personal story about a recent mold exposure and how my body responded to it. And I will preface this by saying that I travel all over the place now, and I stay in all sorts of houses and go into all sorts of buildings, and I'm in all sorts of environments, and I never really react to things, right? Like I can, which is pretty incredible for someone with a history of mast cell activation syndrome, because that's like the whole hallmark of that disease is that you react to everything, right? So I have been exposed to dust and, probably mold and like moldy environments and dusty environments and chemicals, like stayed in hotel rooms where they used like really strong chemicals to clean it before we got in, and like, I don't love the idea that I've been exposed to that, but I haven't had any ill effect from it, right? I've rebuilt my immune system and kept my detox channels opened enough, and I'm mindful enough about my nutrient status and all of this that like my body doesn't react to it anymore. I've had no problems, with this exception of in early April. I was exposed to a house that I am assuming must have had extremely high levels of mold. Because like I said, I don't really react to things at all anymore, even though I've been in a lot of different environments, a lot of old buildings, things like that. But within a couple days of being in this house, I started getting mast cell reactions. And it's been so long since I've had this level of reactivity to anything. I was pretty astounded. Like my cheeks, I was waking up with like swollen, flushed cheeks, which has been ages since that happened. I got this huge hive on my cheek, which is actually still healing over a month later. That was just full of really nasty stuff that was obviously trying to like detox through my skin. I was definitely like having real, mast cell reactions. And so I assumed that the only thing that made sense to me was that there was extremely high levels of mold in this house that my immune system was not strong enough to compete with, right? And so I got out of that environment as quickly as I could within a couple days, and did some Epsom salt soaks, and just kept my diet really clean, and just kept myself feeling really calm about it, and trusting my body it would take care of it. And sure enough, like within 2 days, I was having no symptoms anymore. And I mean, this hive has taken a while to heal just because of the physical injury, but I haven't had any flares or mast cell issues since then. Um, so, I mean, this does show you that even when you're solidly in remission and your immune system is actually in pretty good condition, in an extreme situation, right? If you're having an extreme exposure, you may still react to something. And so it's something you do always want to be mindful of. But ideally, we want to get you to a place where you don't have to be worrying about it all the time, that you can, go into most places and do most things without having to worry about mold. And that's absolutely possible, again, if we rebuild the immune system, if we really work on detoxification and opening your detox pathways, and we work on nervous system regulation, and we get you to a place where you are not fearing the world or feeling like everything in the world is out to get you, that you are trusting of your body and your environment, that it's going to take care of you. So those are really the key things, more than being really freaked out about mold in particular. It's one of many factors that can influence your health, and it's not helpful to have this fear-mongering attitude about it. So I hope that was helpful. I really love it when people ask questions on here. It gives me some great topics to talk about that I might not think to otherwise. So please continue to ask questions, and I will answer them as quickly as I can.